a request to record come up there. All right. All right. So thank you everyone for joining us. Like I said, we're expecting a couple of more, and I do want to make Lisa a co-host so she can share before I forget. So let me do that before I forget. Let's see. There we go. All right. All right, so thank you everyone for joining us. The topic of today's meeting is parent involvement in substance use prevention in the college space. So I was speaking with Kinzalia, who's our parent coordinator here at Purchase College, about what she's hearing from parents during this, or if she's identified any certain needs that we could do to help with providing services and support for students when it comes to substance use prevention. And, you know, she just talked about some of the things that are going on in the community that she's heard of from our coalition that she wanted more information from. So I invited Pat Tomasi here from Stop DWI to talk about one of their resources, Power to the Parent. And then I invited Lisa and Nancy here from No to Prevent, and to talk about what they're doing so that we can kind of share some of those resources and talk about how we might be able to apply them to the college space, specifically at Purchase College. So when I was doing the research to kind of figure out how to orient this meeting, we know that the research shows us that parent involvement is a protective factor that, among other things, reduces the likelihood of adolescent substance use and negative outcomes from substance use, delays the onset of use, and students are more likely to see substances as harmful, so have more accurate perceptions of harm for substance use. And the way that parents are able to mitigate that are through good communication, open, clear communication, clear expectations, clear rules with enforcement, being consistent in structure, being involved in the student's life, and then being a positive role model when it comes to frustration tolerance and problem solving. So we know these things exist. We have a lot of research that shows us that this applies to students who are in adolescence. So a lot of our K through 12 type stuff, but there's a lot of emerging research that shows that this is applicable also in early adulthood. So this is all separate from COVID. And now that we're dealing in a COVID world, I think that it is super important to help our students stay connected with any protective factors that we can. And so this is really important. And I'm really grateful to have you all here. So Pat, I was wondering if you could start us off in talking about Power to the Parent as a resource. And to give you all a little bit of background, Pat and I have been talking for a while now, I mean, maybe over a year, about how we might be able to strengthen Power to the Parent as a resource and expand it to our college students, because the resources and the information on that website are so strong. So can you speak more to that, Pat?
Okay. Unfortunately, I am not the techie savvy person that everybody else on this call is. So I've reached out to Alyssa and asked her if she could pull up the Power to the Parent website. Although I would imagine that most of the people on this call have seen the Power to the Parent website. So several years ago, I'm going to say maybe about 8 years ago, we were in a meeting, a coalition meeting, and realized that what we had to do is come up with a resource that a lot of people, not only students, but also parents and people in the community, could access easily. So we came up with this Power to the Parent website. Now, I don't know how we do this. Alyssa, can you bring it up?
Yeah.
Okay, see, oh my gosh, she should probably give this presentation rather than me. But anyway, this is our Power to the Parent.
Wait. Good.
Okay, so there's a lot. We're in the process of updating it, and just as an FYI, and I know Nancy and Lisa and Linda will be talking about this later. As a result of the wonderful speaker series that they have, which evolved from our student training last summer, we realized that one of the resources that we needed was a team website as well. So we're in the process of developing a team website to link to this Power to the Parent website. So that's just a sidebar. So could you go into the various tabs up there, Alyssa? If you go to the first one, learn. There's a parents quiz. There's a lot of different resources that people can go into and find out what's going on in the field. There's laws, as you can see in different videos, and it's sort of, it reaches all the subjects that we have been discussing about, we as a coalition here in Westchester, and as well as what Lauren, you're doing as well. So let me see. I'm just wondering if we could just drop into one of those just to see. We can go in developing brain. Let's go into the developing brain one. Okay, so what it does is it just gives a narrative of what's going on. A lot, as I say, a lot of this resource, this information is on many, many websites, and it's not news for us because this is the world we work in and live in. But for those who do not know too much about it, this is pretty all encompassing. So this is one of the things that we and then we have Nora Volko, who has spoken several times at CADCA, and she is very knowledgeable, and she just gives wonderful talks and shares good information for all of us to understand what's going on. It's a little hard to deal with many times and so understand, but she's just a great resource. Okay, and under the be aware, Alyssa, could you get down there too? And so we have, there's a few things we have hidden in plain sight. Maybe you can go into that. I think that we've discussed this even at this meeting before. This, I always say this is a Judy Mezzi baby that she came up with this wonderful visual of for parents to use to look to look into their teen's room to see if there are any drugs or just signs that maybe your teen is using. So they're all different things that you would find in a teen's room. And if you go into any of the different things you can see hidden hookahs, you can see a lot of other information. Judy brought this, and of course a lot of people have done it now, brought it around to different schools, different community events. And it is always of great interest to everybody because you would find things where you would least expect it. So that's another resource there. Okay, Melissa, do you want to go back to, let me see what else. Then parenting, we have the parent drop down, and let's go in. Well, there's, as you can see from the thing, how to talk to your teen, 20 tips to keep your teen safe, and parenting, et cetera, et cetera. Why don't you go into the 20 tips to keep your teen safe? This is just, I'm just giving you a very quick overview of what it is. So we used Lauren Amsterdam, who has also done work with you, Lauren, and several of other people. She creates these visually very, very pleasant images. And so we're very lucky to have her, but she's come up with a lot of these different visuals. So you can see developing trusting relationship, it goes on. And this is all reinforced as Lisa and Linda and Nancy will talk about in the presentations that they are offering to parents through the speaker series. A lot of the people they bring in back up this information. So, but this is very easy to see, and as I say, visually very, very nice to look at. Okay, next is resources. So these are just a lot of our partners that we deal with, and so just go into their website. And so if anybody wants to scroll around, they can find whatever they want to find. And so that's also something that we're constantly updating this. So, and we always ask if they think that something else should be included in it, but for the time being, that's what we've stayed. Okay, stay informed. Okay, be in the now. No, be in the know. I'm fine. Okay, so there's different things. You can just scroll down, Alyssa, and just show the different things. So we also addressed during COVID-19, that's been updated. And several of the things of what people know. 420 is something that we've done for many, many years. We haven't done it in the last year, and this year we're going to have a different iteration of it. But anyway, so that's another thing. You want to go into that 5 A's of parenting? Can you click on that one? So Mike Nerney has come to Westchester and spoken at a lot of local coalitions, but he also spoke at our big coalition. Oh my heavens, he's been coming for 10 plus years. So he has a wonderful presentation, and we use a lot of the data that he has collected. This is a man who spends his vacations, if you will, going down to Fort Lauderdale and hanging out at the beaches down there during spring break. At least that's what he used to do. And he would go to colleges, sit in college cafeterias, and he just put himself in that environment. And so he came up with a lot of very, very good data that he shares. And it's not just reading from a book, but he's actually living it. So we quote him on that. Okay, let me see what else. Okay, stay informed. Okay. Can you go to the other, what's the next one? About. And so this is where you get, can you drop down there? I can't see it because I have all the pictures of everybody.
It says
yeah.
about power to the parent,
Right.
coalitions, and media campaigns.
Right. So why don't you just go into, you can go into about power to the parent. Want to do that one? So this is just an overview of who we are, what we're doing. As you can see, and we do it all in Spanish too. So that's a little bit of the overview. I think the most important thing, just wanted you to see what this looks like. It's a little old right now. At least I feel it's old, and so that's why we're working with Lauren to update it. And we, as I say, we're also doing a teen website that will be separate from this, but there will be links to it. So it'll be more all encompassing for parents and for teens. So that's it. I mean, do you have any other information that you need or questions that you have regarding it?
No, I mean, I think that, like I said, I think that it is a really comprehensive resource, and that's really great. I guess I'm just, I have some ideas on how we could expand it to make it more applicable to the college parent. And I think that like some small changes, even changing language from child or teen to student to make it a little bit more, to embrace that a little bit more, the age range would be great. But, one of the things that I heard when I first came onto campus was that, parents, it's hard when you're not having, your typical routine with your student coming home, whether it's having dinner or doing after school practice or end of night or on the weekends or whatever it is that the routine is in the family, having these conversations and having those opportunities to have, difficult conversations. How do you do that when you're reestablishing that when the student maybe is no longer in the home or, is carrying different responsibilities? So it would be great to kind of get some information for our parents on that, on how to have those conversations from afar, encouraging them to have those conversations, and empowering them to have those conversations.
Right. Well, actually, I did speak to Lauren about that, and she's probably going to reach out to you as well to see some of the things that maybe you want to have included as the things that you just said.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be working with that, but that's definitely another link that we're going to put on it. So
thank you. Yeah, it's an excellent resource.
The more resources, the more information. I mean, we don't want to be preachy. We don't want to say you must, you have to, et cetera, et cetera. But data speaks for itself, and information it's just is empowering. So that's what we want to do.
That's awesome. Thank you, Pat.
You're welcome.
All right, so I want to move right on to Lisa, who is representing No to Prevent today. She wears many hats. I don't think I can go through all of them. Maybe you could talk about your other roles too within Irvington and Scarsdale. But Lisa is an excellent resource here for us in Westchester. and has started a speaker series called No to Prevent, which is geared towards providing education for parents. And so I want her to talk a little bit about that. And then she has Nancy here as well to represent that.
Okay, so I guess I'll kind of start off here. And while I would love to take credit, I really can't, because it really has been a real collaborative effort, like in the true Webster dictionary sense of the word. So it's been a very interesting experience and a very rewarding experience that's been beneficial to parents of Westchester. So we're really happy about that. So basically, for those of you, most of us on this, as I look out at the faces, are familiar with the coalitions. There are quite a few of us within Westchester County, many of us DFC funded through the federal government. And pre-COVID, a lot of us, well, one of the main, I don't want to say main, one of the key components, a pillar of what we do is educating parents. And so to that end, each of our communities would organize and invite speakers that we felt resonated with our particular community on a variety of topics. I can speak for Irvington and Scarsdale. I am the coalition coordinator in those two communities. I live in Yorktown and I have worked with that coalition as well. So it's very much kind of a mainstay, you know, kind of thinking through your year, picking your couple of speakers that you'd like to really come and represent the topics and talk about what we feel are important issues affecting young people. Post-COVID, we all found ourselves in a little bit of a quandary because no one was having in-person presentations anymore. So as if it wasn't hard enough to get parents to come out and attend these events to begin with, we were kind of left wondering how we were going to continue to educate our parents, because especially with students being at home more than ever, we felt that it was critical that they have the information that they needed. So this all kind of I guess it's too late for long story short, but ended up with quite a few of us getting together and talking about how we might be able to, I guess, make lemonade out of lemons. Because the physical, well, in pre-COVID, you would very rarely find somebody from, let's say, Peekskill that was willing to travel down to Larchmont for a presentation, right? So there were a lot of geographical issues, which is why it tended to stay very contained within local communities. But now with the boundaries down, we kind of reinvented how we were going to deliver this. And what came out of it is the No to Prevent network. So No to Prevent is essentially a collaboration of various coalitions within Westchester County, as well as other agencies that serve youth. And the goal here was to create a series throughout the year that could be accessed virtually, not only live, but also kind of on an evergreen basis for parents to really be able to connect with resources. One of the things that we really found useful about this is, number one, the sheer number of presenters that we could bring in, speakers we could bring in, definitely increased for every coalition. So it really was a situation of the whole was greater than the sum of its parts. So I'll just kind of, the other thing that helped us also was we did create a marketing budget. And this is one of the pieces that came out of that. I'm going to stop share because I do this every single time. I forgot to do the share sound. Okay.
Raising teens recently became even more challenging, and No to Prevent, the Knowledge Network of Westchester, is here to help. Our free monthly virtual speaker events are presented by nationally recognized experts and focus on issues relevant to parents now. This series is designed to empower parents with essential tools to raise resilient and confident children, help strengthen relationships, and reduce risky behaviors. Visit no2prevent.org for more information and to register for free. It's never too early or too late. You can't prevent what you don't know.
So, as you can see, there was just an example of the ones that we've done up until December, but the topics have been pretty wide ranging. We've gotten an amazing response in terms of folks registering and not only showing up live, but we do make this available for people through a recording. So even more so increasing the accessibility. I'm going to let Nancy talk a little bit about the various resources that kind of come along with this effort, other than the actual presentation.
Awesome. So, excuse me. Thanks, Lisa, for kicking us off and getting started with how we sort of came together. And I just would add that really, and I say this, and Pat is in the room, and Patty, and they know this is how we all, feel. But part of how this came about is because we sit in a room, we get to sit in space together once a month through the Westchester Coalition. That's an umbrella coalition. And this idea to even do this came up ages ago, but when we all were just able to do our own thing and got busy doing our own things, and COVID wasn't making that challenging, we didn't all jump right into that because there were so many other things going on. So in a way, one of the positive outcomes of COVID was that this idea that had been percolating in that room for at least 2 years, I feel like, in various iterations, finally kind of came to fruition. And it's something that we're going to carry even when we have the ability, because we realize how much better it is. So one of the things that we do each month is that we put out the, collectively, we work together to put out a flyer to help promote the event, and all of this is done through budget that is shared. So again, just the collective power of having each coalition is not spending, like in some ways, a single coalition could spend as much on one single speaker event as what we're pooling in, but because we have this, that power of the collective dollar, we don't have a $5,000 budget. We have a $40,000 budget that enabled us to just do a lot more work. So we put together the flyers to help promote the event, and then Lisa's going to flip to the next slide and show you one of the really most important things that came out of our collaboration. And actually I should speak to part of what the group did was we really, when we started planning, we looked at month to month to month. If we made the decision collectively, we wanted to do it monthly. And then we looked at months and talked about, well, April is Alcohol Awareness Month. We should be talking about alcohol in April. February, what month is mental health awareness, or we put a mental health awareness piece in December, because we know that holidays and winter are a really difficult time for mental health, right? So we really kind of focused month by month on topics of that seemed important globally for all parents. And then what we provide, in addition to when you register, in addition to getting the link to the event itself, which also gives you the link to the recording of the event afterward, everyone who registers gets in their email with the copy of the link to the recording, a copy of this, what we call our tip jar, which tip stands for takeaways, information, and prompts. And it's literally just a synopsis of the key information that was imparted during that speaker series. So think of it like a little one-pager reminder that helps parents kind of focus in on the most important things that they might want to remember. And again, as Lisa said, what's great is that we think of it in two ways, right? One is the initial group of, and we've been ranging. We've had speaker events that have had 200, 300 people on the call at the moment. But what we're finding is that we're also getting a great, what I call the aftermarket, right? It's sort of like in film, you think of the rental market. We're getting all these people who monthly, we're getting 40, 50, 30 people each month who are also going on and looking at prior ones. So we have the opportunity, because we're housing all of that great information on the website, for people to get people both in person, but also the recorded version, which also gives them access to the tip jar as well. And Lisa's going to talk a little bit about that, show you what that looks like on the website.
Yeah, so to Nancy's point, it was important to us that to really remove as many barriers as we could for folks wanting to access it. So that was a combination of promoting it enough so that people countywide actually knew about it. And then once they did know about it, obviously we want them to register and come, but if they can't, in addition to what Nancy just said, everything that we do lives on our website. So I just pulled one particular one here, and anybody can go on at any time afterwards and access the tip jar itself, a link to the recording, any other resources that were shared. A lot of the speakers will share their slide deck. So we really wanted to give this an opportunity, or give this the time and the breadth for people to access it when they could, especially right now where people are busy, people are overwhelmed, and you may not have time in the moment, but you the good news is you don't miss it. You can access it later. And we're in the process of updating this for a couple of presentations that we're translating into Spanish. So that will live on the website as well. And I think that was it, that all we had to share. We're just really, we're impressed with kind of how well it's been received. We've gotten a lot of good feedback. This is also because everything is being done digitally. It gives us a lot of access to data. We're collecting a lot of data on registrations, how many times people are clicking into the website, where they're coming to us from. So it's really been kind of like a win-win, despite the unfortunate circumstances that kind of propelled us into this arena. And like Nancy said, we're already planning for the next coming school year, and we do realize that things will probably open up a little bit more. But I think with kind of Pandora's box is open now, everybody's kind of used to virtual access, and so we do think that there will be a continued need to provide information, education that people can access on their own time when life resumes some sort of normalcy.
Well, and the other thing that I would just add to that, and why I think this is such a great thing that we now kind of have this in place, is that as I said, for years, many of us have tried Westchester Coalition. We always share when we're having a speaker that anybody can come, but somebody doesn't want to have to, schlep a half an hour to a community nearby to go, because it turns a 1 hour speaker into a 2 hour or more, outing, right? And they have to think about a babysitter, and they have to think about, I do think that even when in-person things will be possible, and certainly we may all want to do some in-person things that are very specific for our own communities at some point in the future when we're able. But I think this just makes it possible for us to collaborate in ways and to share across the whole county, which also then we know has that added benefit, right? It has the added benefit of when we as a county are sharing messages about prevention, the likelihood that my community and your community and your community are getting the same messages is increased, right? And that actually is an important protective factor for our young people, because they don't just hang out with the kid who lives in their town, especially once they get to be in high school, or if they're college students who are living at home and commuting, they are hanging out through sports and other activities with kids from other towns. And just that sort of saturation of message across the entirety of our county, to the extent that we can make that happen, is really an important protective factor. And I think increases sort of the mojo of any given message, if it's a message that you're hearing everywhere and not just, in your living room with your mom.
Absolutely. Yeah, that message consistency is so important.
Mm-hmm.
I love the tip jar idea. I think that having this like action oriented thing towards the end to kind of put together what you've learned and what you're going to do with that is so brilliant. And I think it's so important to point out the fact that you have so many who are participating synchronously, but there's also asynchronous participation. And as a Somers parent, I love that I get them on my personal email side. So I see this on a professional side, but I get the emails as a parent as well. So that's really encouraging. I'm wondering, especially with how big of an turnout you all get, if you do any look at any data about what age your parents are coming from. So how old are their students? And if you have any parents who are college bound or college age parents attending your programs.
Yeah, the vast majority, we do collect that data for people that register, and the vast majority are K through 12. Mm-hmm. We do not see a whole lot of college age group, but on the other hand, that's kind of where, I guess where the natural outlets have been for the coalitions, because that's where our work tends to be focused. So it does make sense. But that's not to say that if we were to be kind of Know to Prevent 2.0 in the following year, we're already talking about different things that we would like to incorporate. And I think that might be an opportunity for us to create more of a direct marketing that's focused at that young adult level, if you will. I'm not sure what those, not living in that space, I'm not really sure how that would work, or maybe it's something that we could partner with colleges in the area in disseminating information to the parents of their students. But we're constantly kind of thinking about how can we take this to the next level, and we've got a lot of ideas, and so we're already hard at work thinking about the following year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so impressed with everything you all have put out.
I suspect we're probably capturing some of those parents too. So being a parent who bridges that, actually, so I myself have a college student and a high school student. I know if I were looking at this and I were responding, I would respond that I was the parent of a high school student, because that's how it's coming to me, like as the parent of a high school student. But the reality is we're probably bridging some, just by virtue of a lot of high school parents being in there, it's likely that we're catching some, college parents in there as well. But I do think doing some concerted effort around some young adult or transition, I know that we've spoken many times about sort of that transition programming, like maybe that, I think it would be outstanding for us to just consider as a thing for next year, thinking specifically around that sort of transition to, high school to college, and even some young adult programming specifically. So
yeah,
I don't know if everybody's aware, but Lauren has graciously offered to co-present with Ella Morehouse in June, and I think that will be a great segue. It's really kind of that a space to talk about what I think the phrase we used was freedom with responsibility, right? Kind of moving from out of the home into the college space. And that, I think that'll be an opportunity for us to really grab some of those parents that are going to have the young folks at college and keep them kind of on the radar. And so, exponentially speaking, in the coming years, we'll kind of have pushed out into that age group.
absolutely. Yeah. And what I love about your resource too is a lot of material isn't necessarily age specific, meaning that it's not confined to the K through 12 space. A lot of it still pertains to young adulthood, but also it's not geographically bound. So, we're not talking about county specific information necessarily. A lot of the times it's larger. So if we're looking at parents who live in Westchester, but their students are outside of our catchment area, the information still pertains to them. So that's why I think this is such an opportunity to provide the service to parents of college students and expand that. So I appreciate y'all being mindful of that and being aware and being open to trying to serve that community as well. I wanted to open it up to see if anyone else has questions for either Pat, Lisa, or Nancy.
I have a question for everyone. I'm Kathy. Of course, I'm the director now in Lauren's endeavor here. And I was pitching an idea to Lauren just recently. She hasn't even had time to think about it, but something that our disabilities coordinator has done with great success is go out and talk to different schools in Westchester about the transition to college for students with disabilities, how to prepare your students. And I was hearing about some nice virtual platforms that were in use at WCC. And I was wondering about hosting a virtual event so that we put together programs and services and invited parents and students who are transitioning from high school to college to come in and look and see what kinds of things are available to do or what you need to do to sustain yourself in sobriety or recovery in college as an event. Is that something that interests the coalition members in trying to do?
When you talk about event, do you talk about in-person event, or are you talking about
I'm talking about a virtual event on a virtual platform, in the same way that colleges now do their admissions events and open houses, and they have virtual breakout rooms and things like that. But the college transition for students who want to maintain sobriety or seek different, to see where their college is and location, to area resources for counseling or ongoing recovery, things like that. I haven't heard much about that being a thing that gets done. And I thought it might be, this is a very strong Westchester coalition of K through 12 organizations. And I know there's parents who have youth that they are looking for those types of things. And, self-interest here, we at Purchase have been able to have the resources given to us to sort of expand programming. And we want to continue to expand programming for students who are sober curious, or they want to have a substance-free space for recreation and things like that. So we have things to promote, but we also know that parents are looking asking about that when they do campus tours and when they're finding out information about whether their campus is friendly to any of these concerns. So I was thinking about trying to pull together what that type of event in May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I'm just wondering from your perspective, whether something like that is something your constituents would be interested in attending if you were advertising it in your newsletters or your websites and things like that.
Absolutely.
I think for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I have seen, I don't want to say that exact topic, but a similarly organized and scheduled type of forum where people can come into one place, almost like a keynote speaker, but there's like a beginning, and then kind of opt into the breakout rooms that they're interested in. So, somebody would have to man each of those breakout rooms, and then those breakout rooms would cover their own specific topic. And it may only last, 20 minutes, and people can come back and then choose another room type of thing. So it's almost like a little mini conference. So I do think people like that because it gives them the choice. And for the organizer, you don't have to do a terrible amount of legwork in advance, because you're just going to create the breakout rooms and let people join naturally. So I say utilize that. And I 100% think that we have a lot of senior parents that are
Parents
very
would be interested,
very
yeah.
anxious about what things are going to look like in September. What are the resources? I would say that the events that I have attended, and I have a junior, so I'm kind of like almost there, that I think have been successful and where I've seen a lot of participation are ones that involve multiple schools. Like kind of like offering very different perspectives. So if that was something that could be organized, I think that would even further increase the parents that would be interested in attending. And
Sure.
I have to tell you, parents are tapped out right now, but every time our school puts out something that has to do with college, every parent is on there, like from freshmen to seniors, everyone's curious. So I do think it's it's a hot topic.
One of the things I remember from the beginning, Kathy, when I went into what still is Outback, that was then a substance-free dorm or residence on our campus, and doing listening groups with the students who were living there to kind of find out what they were doing, why they chose that housing, what they were looking for out of choosing that. And the vast majority of students who came to these listening groups, we had pizza. So there were like hordes of students who just wanted to talk with the pizza, back when we were able, back when we had the luxury of doing that. Right. And we hosted them later at night, so they came in and we said, what interests you in doing this? Like, what kind of programming would you want to see? Because we were thinking, oh, how great, they're sober curious, or they're in recovery, or they have some reason to, do this. Vast majority of them said, oh, well, my parents filled out the housing application. They wanted me to be in substance-free housing so I wouldn't get into trouble. So to what you're saying there, Kathy, I think the more that we can get students and parents to attend this together and to have this be a thing that they choose together, so that we're empowering students to make certain choices based on either, their needs or their wants, and not just the parents thinking that this is an attractive offer. We no longer have Outback as a substance-free housing, but we do have substance-free options that are kind of different, look a little bit different on our campus. So, I mean, that in conjunction with the other services that you'd be promoting, Kathy, I think that having that be a joint venture between the parent and the student, inviting them together to make decisions and learn about that together, would be a smart move.
Sure. Let me reply to that for a second. All of our first year housing is essentially substance free. Right. And so they discontinued Outback as a quote substance free house because they had to begin to put seniors in it. And so right now our substance free housing is where COVID quarantine rooms are. So, so you're almost talking about an admissions type event there. So, just to have more information. Okay, Nancy, you want to say something?
No, I just was going to mention, like thinking as a parent. So first of all, as a parent who's been through it once, right? So I have a kid who's already a junior in college, but as a parent, but in a really different kind of a college situation. He's in a conservatory. He's not at college really. He's at a whole other universe of the world. To me, as a parent of a rising junior, and thinking about college for that kid, like one of the things I think would be really helpful for somebody like me, for example, is maybe some of those breakout room opportunities would include things like, here's what parents should know about the types of resources that might be available on at your college. Here are schools, maybe getting together a list of resources about, like, again, even if it's within the SUNY system, let's say, here are schools that have better supports than others. Like, I feel like, especially if a New York parent is looking in the SUNY system, and they know that this is something that is important for them, for their own child, knowing where there's more supports or more resources versus less might be a part of a determining factor, right? Like, I mean, obviously being admitted is a piece of it as well, but if there's more than one option where you're admitted and one is better for, in the same way that we do that for students who, I know parents who have kids who have special needs, they kind of know, like the special ed department tells them, here are the places that really are very well set up to support you. As a parent from outside, here are the ones that aren't, and maybe one of your breakout rooms could be, again, Lauren, like those sort of tips and suggestions for how parents can help support their kids from afar is maybe one of the breakouts. And, because I think that's, even if your kid is not, even if your kid lies somewhere in the middle of a spectrum of needing or wanting substance free or not, parents still want to know, how do I keep the conversation going and keep our family values and my concerns for them in the picture? Those could be some interesting, like, things you could offer up as components of, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think a really interesting element in the difference between college and K through 12 would be that in K through 12, you aren't competing for your students, whereas in college you are. So Lauren is placed with us because of a grant to SUNY. So I would be less inclined to include every college in the area because that's the competition. I'm not interested in showcasing the competition at all. However, if you want to reverse this and take it back home to your school's coalitions, I know that the guidance office will do some type of day where you can come and, we would come to present what we had. And so you might want to bring this topic forward as a part of those days so that each school can come and have competing colleges come and share their full information about their resources. That might be a better way to go for equity. Okay, thanks. That's
right.
Beneficial.
That's a great point, right? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. And I realized that I jumped right into the content of our meeting today without allowing anyone to introduce themselves or to make any announcements. So I wanted to provide that in our last couple minutes of the meeting here. If anyone has any announcements they want to share, or I'm putting Brianna on the spot.
I was actually going to jump in. So no announcements other than we have the PRC is having our networking event tomorrow. There are still some spots. I know a couple of you are already registered. There are still some spots in the subcommittee breakout room if anyone's interested. I can throw my email in the chat if you want to register.
Thank you. And Brianna was so kind to connect me to their recovery specialist over at ADAC to get some Narcan kits for our Narcan training that we're going to have in the next couple of weeks here. We're looking at possibly March 17th. And it looks like Chris is actually going to be able to provide the training for us as well. We were looking to the National Guard, but they're pretty overwhelmed with everything that they have going on. So as that firms up, I'll send out the information to let everybody know, but we're really excited about that. And if you're not aware, it's pretty hard to get your hands on Narcan right now. So we're really grateful to Brianna and to the PRC and to ADAC for that. Any other announcements?
Alyssa, what about the teen meeting that you're going to have?
Yeah, so I'm the youth leadership coordinator for the Westchester County Youth Task Force, and we have monthly meetings with kids from all over Westchester and a few kids from Putnam County. And our March meeting is this upcoming Tuesday, and we're having Sean Derrick come. He's a virtual engagement strategist, so we're really excited about that.
Thank you. Writing. notes here. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you so much again to Lisa, to Nancy, and to Pat for sharing today on the call. I am going to take this back to Kinzalia on our campus, who will probably want to have further conversations about how we can utilize these. And if anyone wants to have further conversations about this, please reach out. We can go ahead and do that. Our next meeting is going to be in April. I'll include the dates and times in the meeting minutes. We do have April as Alcohol Awareness Month, so we'll be working on programming to fit that. If anyone has any programming for Alcohol Awareness Month or any messaging that they're putting out, please feel free to share that, and I'll pump that out to the CASSAP listserv. But I hope everyone stays safe and healthy, and thank you for being here today, and we will see you all next month.
Thanks, Lauren.